All of us experience periods of doubt, fear, and unbelief. We're not proud of these emotions, nor do we usually share these hindrances with others. We tend to hold these feelings close to our chest and let the refrain of uncertainty repeat in our minds. Should we continue to look at these emotions in a negative light? Or should we look to what is on the other side of our doubts and fears? Before every rite of passage, or prior to making that final big decision, doubt and fear will cause hesitation before taking that next step. Because what is not known is scary, and what is not understood is frightening. But if we hesitate and we hold back at that pivotal moment, we will not see the blessing on the other side. Think back to the night before your wedding, or the day after your high school graduation, or the day you're signing the paperwork for that first 30-year mortgage, or maybe when you decide to expand your family. All of those experiences come with a mixed bag of emotions ranging from excitement to dread, because each day of our lives carries an unknown factor. But if we live in the fear and we hold back because of the what-if scenarios that are playing on loop in our minds, we'll never take that plunge, and we'll never see the blessing on the other side. There will be moments when we are caught up between our doubt and fear, and at times it will cripple us, and at times we will overcome it. There will be times when you're floating on a sea of uncertainty only to be slammed up against the shore and confronted with a situation of a fearful nature. And when this happens, I ask you to pause and look for what is in the in-between. In Mark chapter 5, we encounter Jesus and his disciples landing on the shore in the country of the Gerasenes. The group is not met with the usual crowds of people. Instead, they are immediately met by a demon-possessed man. Let's read together in Mark chapter 5, beginning in verse 3. He lived among the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he had often been bound with shackles and chains, but he wrenched the chains apart, and he broke the shackles in pieces, and no one had the strength to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones. This would be a frightening or unsettling greeting for anyone, but it is even more unsettling if you're still reeling from another incident. An incident that leaves you wondering, who is it exactly I am following? Just prior to that landing on the shore, the disciples witnessed Jesus stopping a storm with a single command. And this was not your regular run-of-the-mill thunderstorm. No, if this storm was a human, he would quite possibly resemble our demon-possessed man. Their wind is howling, there's flashes of lightning, there's thunder booming, waves are crashing into the boat, water's pouring over the sides into the boat, and pandemonium broke out among the men, except for one, Jesus. Jesus is in the stern of the boat, fast asleep. But the men on the boat, they're agitated, scared, and they're upset that their teacher is sleeping through what they are sure of is their impending death. So they decide to wake Jesus. And I can only imagine the look Jesus gave them to express their concerns. Jesus wakes and rebuked the wind and said to the seas, "Peace, be still." And the storm ceased. And Jesus turns and asks the men, "Why are you so afraid?" Which caused the men to experience a different kind of fear and to wonder and doubt the real identity of Jesus. Fear and doubt and anxiety are very real feelings that all of us will experience at some point in time. Some of us just for short times in our life, and others of us will battle with anxiety, doubt, and fear our entire lives. I myself have suffered from periods of anxiety caused and stemming from unknown situations. When my oldest son was about 3.5 years old, I made the decision to get out of a bad marriage. And since I came from a family of divorce, this was not an easy decision for me to make, and I didn't make it lightly. But at this point, I had endured 3 years of a marriage built on insecurity, infidelity, and lies. I had carried my faith and belief in God on the inside because at times I was made to choose my husband or my Savior. I will never forget the secrecy I used to set myself and my son up for our eventual departure. And I remember thinking about the fear that reaction would cause once he found out that my name was no longer on the joint checking account and I had removed my name as an authorized user on his credit card. And I had already put a down payment and signed a lease on a place in a different town. And while all the moving and setting up a new life is worrisome enough, I was left with nagging doubts about whether or not I was actually doing the right thing. I was trying to deal with my own understanding of the situation while also learning of my son's diagnosis of Asperger's. So we were both in counseling and we were both a total mess. Where Sam was trying to figure out what happened to his family, I was trying to come to terms with my decision and my feelings of bitterness and anger. I questioned God. I doubted God. I wondered where God was. I questioned my whole idea of marriage, because if it was really till death do us part, was I in the wrong? I looked through scriptures and I prayed like I had not in a long time. There's also fear and anxiety about how are we going to make it on our own with just my income. All of our known comfort and areas of life, they were no longer known. And questions bounced around, I'm sure, in his head as they did mine all the time. But those times when I was still and I was focused, I sensed God's peace. And eventually, I let him lead me to a church. And each Sunday, my strength and my being was just renewed as I worshiped with others. And as each month slowly went by, I could see a little more clearly through this foggy season of my life. As I continued to surrender and to accept that it was okay to leave, that I had made the right decision, that I took my son out of a very bad situation, I felt more at peace with where our lives might be heading. 1 year after the move, I actually decided to get baptized. And as I continued to seek God, I was able to see God's hand moving in my life, not just in the last year, but in the several years leading up to that point. So once my focus and my switched from those questions of how do I, what if, when will I, can I, and those negative statements of I can't do this, if only this, or if only that, did I see the prayers that I did not realize I had prayed.